So let me talk a little bit more about this project economy and give you some other research that was done by an organization called the Aberdeen Group, which is a corporate research organization, which basically found that project-based work it relies on a diverse group of individuals and service providers. But the interesting statistic here, which is quoted on this slide, is 77% of the companies that were surveyed by the Aberdeen Group report they use independent consultants because they need specialized skill sets for these projects. And this little chart in front of you helps give you a sense as to why companies would use independent consultants. So you start on the left side, on the vertical axis. It goes from anonymous to individual specific. And what that means is, on the bottom is, I just want to get work done. I don't really care who does it. On the top is, I know this particular person, and I trust them. I want them to do the work specifically. On the horizontal axis, on the left side, you have tactical work, things that are not very strategic to the company, but things that just need to get done. I need to, have a PowerPoint presentation built, or I need to have a logo done, or I need to have a specific piece of tactical work done. I might go ahead and do that with someone that necessarily could just get the work done without me really knowing who it is. As you move out to the right, the work is more strategic. It's more important to my organization, and therefore the risk is much higher than I need to make sure I trust and know the person. And what this chart does, it shows you that the types of organizations companies would use to provide this type of project work. And there's many of these freelance and marketplace sites that have evolved, and certainly with social networking, there's dozens and probably hundreds of them, where you could go online and say, gee, I want to get this piece of work done, and I'll spend $300 or $400 on it, or $1,000 on it, and that is one area of tremendous amount of small project work, and a lot of it being done actually offshore. You move up into the top left box, you'll find that those are staff augmentation companies where I need work to be done on site. I just need additional resources. As long as they're qualified resources, I don't need to have some prior experience with them. I could just get them to work. Moving down onto the bottom right, where I have strategic work, I don't really know anyone to do it, but I want to go get a branded large consulting firm. I'm going to go by the brand of that firm because I know they have a good reputation. My board of directors is going to be happy that I selected that firm, and therefore I would look for a real organization that their brand is what's important to me, and I know they have good people. And of course that goes the same with a boutique consulting firm, although boutique consulting firms you may choose because you've used them in the past. But up on the top right are the independent consultants. These are those people that have high expertise and high trust with the organizations that want to use them. And those are the people that are handpicked. They're very specific, and that is the opportunity for the boomers that we see and that other organizations are using. And certainly we see this in our own organization at MBO Partners, where about 40% of our associate base and consultant base are in this boomer demographic. So I hope you find that useful. So how do you capture the return on investment in you? And this is a concept that I want to talk about in regard to the change of how the new way people are starting a business. And traditionally, when you start a business, traditionally you think about, well, gee, I have an idea, I need money, and in the past there was a large need for large sources of capital to start a business. You would need to go buy a storefront if you're going to open up a coffee shop, or you want to buy a vineyard, or you want to start a company, you have a lot of employees, and you need capital. And obviously everybody knows that when I start a business I need capital. Well, I'd like everybody to think about capital really comes into three flavors. You have financial capital, which is your funding, right? Your cash, you go to investors, banks, and so forth. You get a revolving line of credit on your home, which nowadays is not very easy to get. But in the past, financial capital was a pretty important requirement to starting a business. You also have an intellectual capital. These are the ideas, your business plans, and the motivation and the guts to go ahead and create that business. Then you also have social capital. Those are the relationships you have, the people that trust you, the community that you're going to sell to, the partnerships you're going to develop. And these three pieces of capital have always been what's needed to start a business, but in this new way of building a business, the dynamics actually change dramatically. And as you can see in this slide, the traditional economy, you have funding-centric businesses where you need a lot of financial capital. There's certainly a level of intellectual capital that's always needed and a level of social capital to market. But this is the old economy. The new economy, in the expert economy, is a very service-centric business. And as Steve pointed out in his research, in order to start a business today, for a service business, you don't need a lot of capital. You don't need a lot of cash. And as you can see in the representation in this diagram, what really matters is your intellectual capital and your social capital. Of course, you always need a financial capital. You need a reserve. You need to have some money to make sure you could carry yourself between projects. You need some cash to make sure you could appropriately market yourself and go to the events and keep your skills sharp. But that's a very small percentage compared to what going into business was many years ago. So this is another change to the way that people need to think about new business models. And I think this report really supports that, and a lot of trends are supporting this new structure of building a business. So let's talk about these new service models and what we could coin as boomer business models. There's really three ways you could think about building a consulting business for yourself. You could be an independent consultant, you could be a broker, or you could be a project team. So let's talk about the independent consultant. This is what you mostly think about. This is you as an individual going out, spending your time, earning a fee for your time, and delivering your expertise to your clients. Pretty traditional. Whether you charge an hourly rate, whether you charge a daily rate, whether you charge a percentage or a value-based rate, which we do have other webinars and content on how to actually calculate your bill rates and different ways of doing that, whether it's cost-based or market-based or value-based. But either way, this is a matter of you delivering your services based on your time, and obviously you need your time to earn money doing it this way. Another choice you may have is to leverage some of that social capital you have and that trust you have, where you as a broker, you could become a broker where you have clients that trust you. They understand that you know how to get the work done and you know how to deliver a level of quality, and perhaps you know how you could actually find the people and connect them with the people to get the work done. And you could play a role of helping facilitate people to get the work done and clients who want to get that work done, and match them up and pretty much have a fee for producing that arrangement where you're not doing the work yourself. And I will tell you that usually it's not one or the other. It's usually a combination. And we have many of our MBO associates that are actually doing some consulting work, but also connecting consultants with projects and clients and leveraging that trust and that social capital that you have and capitalizing on that and getting some return on that. You've got that capability, and it's something else that you could turn into some income for yourself. The other is a project team. A project team is where you can, in addition to doing your own consulting or the brokerage, what we just talked about, you may find bigger projects. And bigger projects require more people than perhaps you either want to spend your time on or more than you could physically do because it's a large project. And here's where you could build a team to go after a particular project with people that you know, people that you trust, working with the clients that know you and trust you, and you could deliver a project that's based on either a fixed rate or a combination of different rates. But here you could go forward and capitalize on the entire team and actually earn a pretty good income by delivering that project. Now, obviously, you have to know what you're doing. You have project risk, where if the project doesn't work well, then you also have the responsibility of paying for all the people that are getting the work done. So if you're good at what you do and you have leveraging that intellectual capital that you have, leveraging that social capital that you have on both the client side and the consultant side, you'd be in a great position to leverage that capital and get a high return on you. So let me conclude our remarks here by giving you some stories. Everybody likes stories and give you real life stories. And actually on our website, you'll find that we have a interesting, fun area of our site, which is Meet the Independents. We have a State of Independence study, which actually Steve and his firm did for us last summer. It's called the Independent Workforce Index, and we're going to keep that index going every year so we could actually measure the trends of how independent workers are doing from a growth perspective, and even from all the subtleties of their motivations that Steve went through. But in addition to that, we're actually interviewing independent workers around the country. And you could go to each of the different states on that site and you could read their stories. But let me talk to you about two stories. So one is Jane Applegate. And Jane was a journalist who spent a lot of time writing and working in a traditional role. And she got to a point in her career where she wanted to do something different. And Jane has a very interesting story. Today she runs a talk show that actually has sponsors such as Microsoft. She has evolved into a very popular expert in small business, and she now lives in Vermont. She has a very nice 400-acre facility. She works from anywhere on her show, and she's built a very comfortable, very prominent, and very lucrative career as in her encore of her career as an independent consultant.